Hey everybody, so today we're going to be discussing medium patterns, what type of shapes, surfaces, balls, and transition balls you're going to want to use. So two of the balls that I don't have here with me today are the Pitch Black and the IQ Tour. The reason just for me not having them here is I have not had any success slow hooking urethane on medium patterns. I know a lot of people have, and that's great. Go ahead and use that. It's a good ball. The IQ Tour is also a very good choice for, I think, lower speed bowlers. I have a higher ball speed, and I found with the volume that they've been putting out over the past couple of years, that ball started to really fall out of favor, and I've been able to gear it more towards short patterns than I have medium. So that's why those two balls aren't up here for me, but those are definitely two solid choices as well for fresh. So the other two solid choices that I have here that I would use for fresh is the Phase 2 from Storm and the Pro Motion from Storm. The transition balls I have is the Idol Pro, the Original Physics, the Astrophysics, and the IQ Tour Emerald. For medium, just like short, we use the Rule 31. Always a good general rule no matter what pattern you bowl on. If you know the length of the pattern, it'll give you a starting point. So if you're bowling on 41 feet, obviously your break point you would want it to start around 10. Surface wise, for me, ever since I went to 15 pounds, I used to throw 16. I've actually realized that I have to lower my surfaces a little bit more because 15 gets through the front a little bit cleaner than 16 does. So for me, I would probably start with either 1,000 or 2,000 on these two balls here. We're sticking with the same principles as we have on short, where you want something that's a little more rolly, smoother, or slower response ball motion. I have for the layouts, my Pro Motion is 3 inches from my PAP. This Phase 2 is Rico layout. Both of them give me a very smooth and predictable ball roll, and that's what I want to see. For medium to have success on fresh, you really want to try and have your angles closed down a lot more. You know, contrary to what people see on the PBA Tour and what I've seen on there, you know, they have patterns that allow them to open their angles right away. And that's why it's so successful out there. But I've seen, from what I've experienced internationally and traveling around just to various tournaments, that can get you in a lot of trouble in regular tournaments and internationally. I've watched a lot of bowlers internationally. They who normally start left to right on the PBA will actually start with urethane and play a lot further right. And you're actually starting to see that a little bit more now too out there. So I think it's just keeping your angles tighter is the best way to go. Keep them in front of you. Don't go too left to right or right to left if you're left-handed. It'll save you a lot of pins to start. Medium patterns are always the trickiest because of the fact that they do usually give you quite a few angles to play. So the first thing that I'm going to say is when you're transitioning from lane to lane, always be aware of who you're following and how they're playing the lanes. If they're throwing urethane, it's going to change your thought process and what you're going to need to do. If they're throwing higher end stuff and starting further left, it's going to change how quickly you have to get into other balls. I think for medium especially, it's one of the key things that you're going to want to look for. I like to start with stuff that's very, very even rolling, stuff that isn't too aggressive. Even though this is an aggressive, the Pro Motion especially is an aggressive covered ball. My higher ball speed allows me to throw something like that, but you just want that smooth, predictable roll. You gotta find whatever shape is gonna give you the best look to the pocket. That is always the biggest key to scoring out of the game. If you can shoot 210 to 220 your first game, you are in really good shape to start off your block. Once we get into transition, if I'm following somebody that is starting a little further left and everything, right away, my two transition balls here are gonna be my Idol Pro and my Physics. You gotta prepare your surfaces at tournaments that you're not allowed to change surfaces in between games ahead of time. And that is something a lot of people drop the ball on. I've even dropped the ball on it. So if I have, say these two balls are both at 1,000, these ones here are probably going to be at 2,000 and then these ones are going to be at 3. I like to bump each surface up by 1. I always found that you'll get into more trouble if you have lower surface on your ball when it's not good to have it than you will if you have higher surface on your ball. Because with a lower surface on your ball, it's really, really hard to start tricking the ball to do what you want it to do. A lot of time it just keeps burning up in the mid lane no matter what. If you look at higher surfaces, it's a lot more easy to get your hand more up the back of the ball if you can, slow your ball speed down, things like that to get the ball to read that right spot. It might not be the best option at that point in time with a higher surface, but you can still shoot 180 to 2-0. I've always found that when I have a little bit lower surface, that's where I start running into shooting 160s and 150s and shooting myself in the foot. That's how I would do my surface prep all the way through. It's just a good rule of thumb to have. But back to hitting our first transition. I have these two balls here, and I like these two for my first transitions because both of them are still smooth. Even though one's a hybrid, one's still a solid. One's symmetrical, one is asymmetrical. It just gives me that good smooth ball reaction. The physics is a very unique piece because it doesn't roll like your typical asim ball, but it doesn't quite roll like a symmetrical ball either. If, say, my Idol Pearl, which is probably my go-to ball, my first transition ball, it hooks a little bit early, I don't like the motion it's giving me, I will immediately switch to this physics and it'll get down lane a little bit longer than the Idol Pro will. That's why I have these two balls here. I think that they're very, very solid choices for those first transition spots on medium. So when you're starting to get into fourth arrow and around there, a lot of the times these two balls are going to start to burn up just because they're too much shell. That's where these two balls come in. The Astrophysics and the IQ Tour Emerald. I'm a firm believer for each transition ball you should have one symmetrical, one asymmetrical ball, because at no point in time is it always going to be you're going to switch to asymmetrical balls and they're all going to work. So in the later blocks, I have these two because of the Pro cover stocks. This Astrophysics here, I really like it because it's got the same core as the original physics, and with the R2S cover stock on it. And I think it's a really good blend. This ball will help you get through the fronts a little bit cleaner, give you a little bit more pop on the back part of the lane. I can always go to the IQ Tour Emerald because it's symmetrical, it will roll a little bit sooner. But the progression here is basically you just want to start with some balls that are smoother, keep your angles in front of you. As you move in a little bit, you can start to open your angles up a little bit. You can use still some fairly strong equipment, but you still want to make sure that the ball motion's smooth. Once you get into the late transitions, you get the balls that are a lot more angular down lane or a lot more quick response, however you like to think about it. And that's where you can take that giant step left, like I said, get into fourth arrow, and you can send it right towards that 10 board break point if you're on a 41 foot pattern. That's kind of my rule of thumb. That's how I like to play them. In the past, I've had quite a bit of success on medium patterns doing this. It's a really safe way of making sure you keep pocket in play, leave yourself easy spares, and just not having those bad games that you shoot you in the foot. I would rather shoot 200 to 220 all day long than go 250, 150, 150, 250. Good rule of thumb, these are the type of balls that you want to look at for, I would think, in a medium pattern scenario from start to finish. Next video will be about long. See you then.